Well, good morning, and welcome to the show. I'm Daniel Dalp, and this is For Your Sunday Morning Drive, the short podcast with the goal of providing some motivation, some drive, and encouragement on your way to worship and helping you recenter your mind on spiritual things on those hectic Sunday mornings. We are brought to you in partnership with the Ministry League network of podcasts. Be sure to download their app or visit ministryleague.com to see all of the great shows and resources that they offer for free to help you spiritually. Let's go ahead and get the show on the road. This is episode 72, a Cruciform Rebranding. Let's go to church.
Are we there yet?
Well, it seems like Cracker Barrel is in some hot water. And if you haven't been on Facebook or tuned in to the news to get caught up in the latest outrage and the holier-than-thou posturing, let me catch you up. Well, they changed their logo, they redecorated, they rebranded. And people are absolutely losing their minds about it. And as someone with a marketing background, I do find it fascinating, especially as they have since changed their minds. You know, something about getting away from American and family values, and I get that to some degree. But, as the kids say these days, my brother in Christ, it's not that deep. At least from my perspective. And yeah, I'm sure there's a more nuanced discussion to be had, but let's be honest, folks. They sell pancakes. They don't decide our eternal destination. And before I get too far into this, let me ask a sincere question. Why do we care? Why do we care so much about things like this? Why does it seem like our identity is tied up in getting rage baited by things that don't matter? Am I off base here? Maybe. I don't think so. And don't get me wrong, I understand it to a degree. We all want things to go back to their roots. We don't like change. We fight against the inevitable. But it seems to me, dear listeners, that we, perhaps as the church, are in desperate need of a rebranding. And not an update, but rather that we go back to our roots. A cruciform rebranding, if you will. Cruciform, in the shape of the cross. Spiritually speaking, do we need to do that? Because what if our Christianity was devoid of the outrage over petty things and instead was concerned with the real goal of Jesus, souls, the lost, and bringing those lost souls closer to God? Instead of whether Uncle Herschel is in a rocking chair, or Aunt Jemima is on a bottle of syrup, or Uncle Ben is the one selling us rice, who cares? Isn't it all just a distraction? And can we really, if we're honest with ourselves, can we really imagine that God is looking down from heaven, smiling and telling us, yes, Christian, railing against these things is a great use of your time? And I know I sound like I'm on a soapbox, and maybe I am. I guess that's the benefit of being the one behind the microphone. But aren't we supposed to be better than this? What if we as a people go back to our roots? What if we found our identity not in the things that we get so tied up in, but rather we find our identity in Christ over everything else, over our citizenship, over our political party, over our race, over all of our other interests? After all, Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and what is acceptable and what is perfect." Instead of being conformed to the world, with its rage baiting and its propaganda and its distractions, what if we were conformed to the shape of the cross? What if we were to transform our minds? What if we love those that matter, everyone, and get upset about the things that matter, that they are lost? Maybe we disconnect a little from headlines and focus on the mission. And when we do that, how important does Cracker Barrel really seem? Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 and 6 says, "Have this mind in yourselves, which was also in Christ Jesus. Although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped." The mind of Jesus was a humble one, humble enough to submit himself to the will of the Father and to focus on heavenly mission over worldly mayhem. What if we did the same? Are we in need of a rebranding? If so, maybe we go back and ask that simple question that we used to wear on little bracelets on our wrists, and instead we write it deep within our hearts. What would Jesus do now? Doesn't that seem, for the Christian, to be a little bit more on brand? Like it or hate it, those were my thoughts for your Sunday morning drive. Now it's time to hear yours. And don't forget, you can always share your responses to our discussion questions every week right on the website at foryoursundaymorningdrive.com. Our discussion questions for this week are we in need of a cruciform rebranding? Where do we find our identity? And do we tend to focus on what really matters? Or do we get lost in the concerns of this world?
We're here.